Hey everybody, welcome to Scarpad's Comic Treks. I'm Scarpad, and today we're going to talk and look at a special book that I bought not too long ago, and it's about one of my favorite things, of course, Star Trek and the animated series. So to set the stage, the animated series debuted on September 8th, 1973. September 8th was also the date and the day that the original series debuted back in 1966. So when this series debuted in 73, I was 10 years old, prime time. What Saturday mornings were big, watching the Looney Tunes cartoons and all the Filmation, Batman, Superman shows, Scooby-Doo, all sorts of stuff. Back when Saturday morning TV just ruled the 70s and late 70s, early 80s. It was such a glorious time for kids and for cartoons. So Star Trek had been off the air here roughly, I would say at this point, 7 years. There was chatter starting that we were going to get a new TV show, and the books were out there. But really, people were starved for Star Trek at this point because Star Trek had really did little when it premiered, but when it went into syndication in the early 70s and showed every day, and 73 to 77, I would say, was that 4-year period where Star Trek just exploded on television, showing daily, and people were watching it, and people were just starved for more Star Trek. So you realize we heard that this animated series was going to come out, and we looking back at it, no one expected it to be as good as it was. Unlike Star Trek today, when they started this animated series, they went back and hired a lot of the same people that did the original show, like Robert Justman for producing it. They hired all the original voice actors except for, unfortunately, Mr. Chekhov. He wasn't included, although he did submit a script for the show. And they went to one of the biggest houses doing animation at the time, Filmation. Now, Filmation sure did cheap cookie cutter animation for the most part, but and this series certainly had that and stock music. But one thing they did was they hired sci-fi writers, and some of the same sci-fi writers that wrote for the TV show. And while the show was definitely an animated show that children could enjoy, the scripts were adult enough that adults could enjoy them too. So even now when I sit down and watch them, I'm watching things like Yesteryear, where Spock goes back in time to the city on the edge of forever to save himself as a child. It's things that were incorporated in the animated series Yesteryear shows up throughout the Star Trek episodes that have aired since. And they could do stuff through animation they never could do in primetime television because they could go to planets now and show alien creatures. All they had to do is think about them and draw them. So Star Trek the Animated Series, more than almost anything at this point, did so much to bolster Star Trek in that space where there was no Star Trek. It really was a series that Star Trek fans owe a lot to. And what I'm going to look at today is a book that came out sometime, I believe, last year. And it's called Star Trek, The Official Guide to the Animated Series. This is a fantastic hardcover, coffee table type book that you can get on Amazon for almost like $20. It's well worth it. And it goes through everything, production, pre-production, each episode, looking at the animation. And I'd love to see Star Trek. Now, Star Trek is going to come back, this year on Nickelodeon in animated form, but they're going to go kind of a Rick and Morty route where they're going to make it kind of, satirical and sarcastic and stuff. And I guess that will go with today's audience. But why not do a straight, serious Star Trek? Unfortunately, it's by the same people doing Discovery and Picard, so take that as you will. But let's go ahead and look at Star Trek, The Official Guide to the Animated Series. A fantastic, fantastic book. Okay, so here's the book, Star Trek, The Official Guide to the Animated Series. It's a nice hardcover, tabletop type book. And let's have a look at it. Some very nice pictures in here. Written by Aaron Harvey and Richard Shippus, with an afterword by Dayton Ward, who does a lot of the Star Trek novels. Dedications. So it goes over some of the designs. Has some nice full page artwork. It talks about the production, ramping up the series. Dorothy Fontana, who just recently passed away. Talk about getting the cast and crew, and Nimoy objecting. Nimoy fought for the lesser characters. Originally, they were just going to do Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, but he fought to get Nichelle Nichols and George Takei and James Doohan. He couldn't get Walter Koenig, but he did get the rest of them. Shatner didn't, but Nimoy did. He was a really team player. Really great artwork here. They talk about the animation, and then they talk about the premiere of the first season. There was a long 22 episode, I think it went to like 26 episodes. The second season was a shorter season. And it's showing some of the artwork for the series. It really goes into the minutia of developing this series for television. Yesteryear was a classic episode. And this breaks down each one of the episodes with the artwork and the story and some great pictures. I love the artwork there. Beautiful. So most of this book goes over every episode, breaks it down. You see a lot of the initial drawings. More tribbles, more troubles. Great sequel. Ship designs, which they did a really nice job with. Infinite Vulcan, that's the episode that was written by Walter Koenig. Mr. Chekhov. Magics of Megas 2. Actually got a devil-like character on a children's show. Not really the devil, but enough for kids. But it would be on a kid's show. It really was as adult and as sophisticated as the original series. They did some sequels to shows, like Once Upon a Planet was a sequel to the show Shore Leave, first season episode. Mudd's Passion brought back Harry Mudd. Showing some of the creature designs. That's important right here. You see that? Write Star Trek, not cartoons. Paul knew Star Trek, Dorothy Fontana explained. He had 2 produced scripts in the show. Another didn't make it to air for the 3rd season. You know. He said, Paul did at least 3 scripts drafts, but ultimately we had to do a rewrite in the dialogue, but keep all the story elements. Somehow he had gotten into an idea of cartoon and let his natural ability to do dialogue slip. Still, he knew how to do a half-hour show and tell a strong story. Paul Snyder did the script for the first season episode, The Squire of Gothos, with Trelane. Love that panel there with all the all the aliens. That was from the episode of Time Trap where they were trapped in a time release. I love this guy here. Looks like my cat. That's great. Slave Weapon was a story written by the great science fiction author Larry Niven, who did a lot of the books with the Kzinti. And he brought the Kzinti into Star Trek. It was a cat-like creation, cat-like race. He did a lot of work with Jerry Pournelle. I think Moats and God's Eye and a bunch of other stuff. But once again, it's an indication that Star Trek, the animated series, used seasoned science fiction authors and writers, something that they forgot about in the new regime running Star Trek now, using Gilmore Girl writers, and gee, doesn't the stories reflect it? Look at the Kzinti here. Eye of the Beholder, another great episode where they get taken into an alien zoo. The Jihad. And then season 2, they did win Emmys, by the way, and for television for children's Emmys. Pirates of Orion. BIM was another good episode. James Doohan did a lot of the voices for this. He really served a big thing in this series where he did not only Mr. Scott, but he did most of the alien voices were done by him and Roddenberry's wife there that played Nurse Chapel. No, I can't remember her name. Nice. But the Practical Joker, Majel Barrett. I'm losing my mind here. Kirk is a jerk. I love that. Albatross was an excellent story where McCoy was trapped on this world with a plague, and he was being blamed for it, and he has to cure the plague. Good McCoy episode. Counterclock incident where they reverted back to children. This was later done on the Next Generation, kind of with lesser effect. And then goes over the series legacy. The series premiered on video Laserdisc. I remember when I had some Laserdiscs, and then it went over to VHS, of course, and then DVD, and now you can get it on Blu-ray. I have the series on Blu-ray and DVD, and they've cleaned up the artwork as much as they can. You know, obviously the animation is still, you know, what it was, but it looks good. Alan Dean Foster, the great sci-fi writer, came out with a series of novels based on these scripts called Star Trek Log, and they came out with, I believe, 11 of them. And after, I think the first three novels had, I think, 3 stories each. But then after that, they adapted each one. They expanded them and brought them out as one book novels. So they took the scripts as a basis and then expanded them further and elaborated upon them and made full novels out of them. And that's what you could do with these series, because these episodes, because they were that good and that well written. And it says something that even for an animated series, it kept it kept it true to Star Trek. It went out there and explored alien lives and civilizations, and kept the spirit and the optimism of the series. And it's something that I mourn the loss of today with the new regime running the whole shebang. I had these as a kid. Who didn't have Viewmasters? I love Viewmasters. I had them for like a lot of the shows like Lost in Space. I definitely had this one when I was a kid. I wish I still had them because I love the Viewmaster stuff. And now it goes into like, and here's the Blu-ray set that came out. It's not that expensive. If you can, I would hardly recommend, if you haven't seen Star Trek the Animated Series, pick up that Blu-ray. Well worth it. Remember these communicators from Mego? And the Mego figures. So that's it. That's Star Trek the Animated Series guide, official guide. And I recommend, if you haven't seen this, pick it up. Amazon has it for around $20, and man, is it worth the money. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for watching this today. I hope you enjoyed this little look at and talk about Star Trek the Animated Series. Remember, keep trekking, keep watching, and we'll catch you later.